She went viral 3 years ago for this back to school rap.
What's poppin'? Brand new year and I'm locked in. Far as this teaching go, I am unreachable. I'm number one in your top 10. Miss Williams, been poppin'. 2020 new school, you're dropping. No COVID-19, ain't worried about a thing when economy ain't no stopping. I can teach a class.
I ain't gonna lie, she was jamming. She was jamming. Williams was arrested, however, Tuesday after a video of her in bed with a minor surfaced on social media. She has since bonded out. She faces 1 to 20 years in prison if found guilty. Tonight, we asked what would drive a teacher to an act like this and risk it all, career and all. Joining us to talk about it, therapist Dr. Nick Hardy and educator Arnetta Murray. So, Arnetta, you're a teacher. When you see stories like this, what goes through your mind in seeing, you know, someone so popular, someone who was hailed as an educator, a leader, and then a fall from grace like this?
What was you thinking? That's somebody's baby. That's a kid. What were you thinking? That's all. You worked hard for all your educational statutes, and then you decide to mess it up and mess with a kid. It just makes the profession, teachers like me and others, look bad. And it's unbelievable. That's, you know, I fight for teachers, but I don't fight for bad teachers or teachers that's going to assault our kids. I don't fight for that. So,
what do you think happens in a situation like this where you're an extremely popular teacher, a cheer coach, and all of a sudden you find yourself in bed with one of your students?
I think what, you know, first of all, it's no excuse for being in bed with a kid.
Right.
Let's get that out there. But I think you've built this relationship with this particular kid, or these kids look up to you, and then all of a sudden you have these deviant thoughts, and then you just go down this slope. But you have to stay in your mind and know this is what? A kid. You can get I don't know if it was a female or male, you can get grown people that will participate in adult games. Why would you want to participate in this manner with the kid? Was that always a part of your liking? I don't know. I'm really shocked that she did that.
Dr. Nick Hardy, let's bring you into this conversation. We always hear when it's men and they're educators, they say it's power, control over. In a case like this, what do you think it is if this holds out to be true? She has not been found guilty as of yet, and we want to remind our viewers that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it could be a number of different things. I do think power can still be in the equation, whether it's a man or a woman. But one thing that I know is consistent is there was a boundary that was crossed. And that boundary was probably crossed well before the actual act happened. There's this unhealthy gray area where a teacher or someone in a power position begins to gradually and incrementally push the bounds of what's appropriate.
And give us an example of pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, so one example is social media, you know, where you begin to communicate with a student outside of the school hours or outside of the normal open lines of communication, you know, when you start having these private conversations. I think that's one boundary that stands out the most, and a lot of times this is where it begins, because you start to create this casual relationship, and the reality is, I mean, you're a teacher, this is a student, you're an adult, this is a child.
And would you advise educators do not cross certain lines with students, like social media, like calling them to help them with their homework? Call their parents if they need help with their homework.
Absolutely. I mean, social media is obvious. A lot of times it can start with you calling a student after hours, and you may have pure intentions. You may want to help this child, but the perception of it is that, hey, here's an adult calling my child, it's late, and again, it just gets misconstrued, and you begin to, you know, just create this unprofessional relationship with a minor.
And I have to say this, that let's be very real about this. We take training to make sure we do not cross those lines. We take
Absolutely.
professional development.
Most of us did not know that. So what is that training exactly?
I mean, it's you know, like we have to have like I guess 8 or 9 hours of professional development. I'm just gonna say 17 hours or whatever. But one was it was about boundaries, relationships, the type of relationships you should have with your students, with your parents, with your kids. We have been trying to not do that. And so, am I?
No, you're 100% right. I mean, every year, I used to work in the school years ago, and I mean, I remember providing training to teachers, to administrators about crossing these lines and kind of navigating these gray areas that could put you in some compromising positions.
And were you surprised that you guys had, because that should be...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
you
what
should know better.
We are trained to the core about cyberbullying, about relationships. We were even trained about social media, the interaction. We can't have too much interaction with our students on social media. But you have teachers that are doing that. And you have to understand, I guess...
do those tend to be, I want to be the cool teacher, I want to be the hip teacher?
Yes, I want to be the, but...
The popular teacher.
The popular, yes. But that still, we are still trained not to do that in our trainings. So it's a choice that they decided, so you got to deal with the what? Consequences, period.
And Dr. Hardy, would you recommend more intensive training for teachers? Are there just some people who are ticking time bombs waiting to do this no matter what you teach them?
Yeah, I think it's a both and. I think you definitely should be more intentional training, especially with there being so many access points. You know, it's not just I see you in the school. You know, I can find you on social media, I can see you out and about. Definitely more intensive training. But then you also have certain individuals who prey on minors, who prey on individuals who are in vulnerable or compromising situations.
All right, Dr. Nick Hardy, Annetta Murray, educator here. What?
Well, you look at me, educator.
I ain't mean anything about it. You still good.
I'm not talking those lines, honey. Nobody's working my job.
Still ahead.